Good, pause YouTube, 6 Foot Hacks here. Happy guys, today my round 2 games of NU Open, which is actually really awesome. I've never done anything like Smogon related like this before, and I wanted to try and do more of these for future Smogon things, and unfortunately got screwed out of being in NUPL, but did sign up for this, so hopefully things go good. We are going to be facing Dundies. I feel like I've heard his name before, probably in like some other tournaments, or maybe I've seen him on the ladder a couple times, but the name does sound slightly familiar. Now if you guys are wondering where my round 1 games are, I actually ended up getting a bye for round 1, so this is technically quote-unquote my first round for NU Open, so that's pretty awesome. Either way though, if you guys do enjoy this, make sure to hammer arm that like button down below, show off your support. Now obviously these are going to be on Showdown. It was a best 2 out of 3. So looking at the first matchup, he of course brought Stall. I'm not even going to lie to you guys when I told myself he's definitely going to bring Stall against me, because typically I only mainly upload Wi-Fi, and when I play Showdown I don't occasionally use or run into Stall too often, so I had a very good feeling that in this game he would definitely bring Stall against me. And this is a pretty cool team I got off of Harris's Discord. It's a team based around Choice Bandit Sock and Spec Septile, which for the most part they can do work respectively. Like Sock probably has a worse matchup in this game. Hitmonlee is a Scarf set which had 3 moves at the time, because for some reason Showdown likes to screw up and it took off a move, so I only got the 3 moves Hitmonlee going into this game, and I didn't feel like asking him, hey, can I put a 4th move on my Hitmonlee, because probably would have said no, and it's really not even a big deal. But we have a Hazard stacking core between Garbodor and Rhydon, and then a Calm Mind Cobra Berry Meloetta, which is actually really cool. And then Rhydon just defensive, and yeah, so as I mentioned, my opponent has a Stall team, or basically what is a Stall team. It's 5 walls and a Sneasel, which I guess could be a variant of Stall. I mean, typically all you Stall is like, what, 5 walls and a Dugtrio, and that's Stall already. So yeah, going into this game, Calm Mind Barrier Musharna literally just 6-0s me, so I have to be really careful around that. Clefairy could also be a Calm Mind variant, so that could be a little bit annoying to deal with. The Sneasel is also kind of a problem if I lose my Garbodor, so I gotta watch out for that. Golbat could be very, very annoying to break for this team if I lose Meloetta, or if Meloetta gets too weakened, or I maybe mispredict against it, or if I'm not able to knock it off with the knockoff from Sock or Hitmonlee. Accordingly then, Vaporeon will probably just be defensive looking at this team. I think I've seen like Z celebrate Vaporeon, but it doesn't look like that's what this team would be running. Either way though, let's go ahead and get this first game started. So I'm going to be leading off with my Rhydon in hopes that he would be leading off with the Steelix, but he ends up leading off with the Vaporeon. Obviously, I don't want to stand and take a Scald, so I make a switch directly into my Meloetta. Okay, small interruption. Switching directly into Meloetta here was a bit of a questionable play on my part. I really didn't want to risk his Vaporeon potentially going for the Ice Beam on my predicted Sceptile switch, and I don't know how common Ice Beam is on Vaporeon, but I felt Meloetta was still a decent middle ground play, just for the fact that I can potentially get a huge amount of damage off on something that comes in, and maybe Calm Mind on a potential switch out. But I decided to just be aggressive here and go straight for the Focus Blast. If you look at his team, Focus Blast obviously may not have been the best play for me to have gone for, but him switching directly into Steelix, obviously he was predicting me to just go for a Psychic, Psyshock, or Hyper Voice along those lines. If I was Choice Specs, I still would have done a whole lot of damage to the Golbat, Musharna, and Clefairy, all of which switch into Focus Blast. So Focus Blasting here, I really thought was a solid play on my part, as I am able to get off a huge hit on the Steelix. This is really good for me, because now I can safely follow up this turn by going for a Hyper Voice, or potentially going for a Calm Mind on his expected switch out, as I do just go for the Hyper Voice. Does little to no damage to the Clefairy here. In hindsight, I probably could have gone for the Psyshock right away, but I thought that maybe he would want to switch into the Musharna, which is why I mainly went for the Hyper Voice, and I'm still able to do a solid 30% to the Clefairy, which is really good. I now know that this is a Spadef bulky Clefairy, as I'm going to hard switch right into my Rhydon here in hopes to try and get up my Stealth Rocks just to be able to apply some pressure to him, as he does reveal to have the Toxic. Toxic is just a little bit annoying, but now I know that he's got a recovery move in Soft Bolt, he's got Stealth Rocks, and he's got Toxic, which means he doesn't have Calm Mind. He could maybe have Knockoff, and he doesn't have Thunder Wave unless he is for some reason a dual status. Clefairy, which I highly doubt. But either way, I'm able to get on my Stealth Rocks here, which is going to be really nice just to get off chip damage on his team, as I switch directly into my Meloetta, expecting him to pull a switch out into either his Musharna or into this Vaporeon. Maybe the Golbat. I highly doubt he would have brought in Golbat though, but mainly Musharna or Vaporeon, because against those two, I can Calm Mind up against them, and I can potentially pressure the Musharna, or he could think that I'm a Z-move Meloetta, and then he could be fearing that. But as he brings in the Vaporeon, this does allow me to get off essentially a free Calm Mind, because there's no way he's going to stay in, and if he does stay in, he's probably going to go for the Protect or go for the Wish. So on the +1, I'm able to knock out the Steelix, which is really great. In comes the Clefairy, which I know is Spadef bulky, so I can knock him out with the Psyshock. In comes the Sneasel. I actually do have the Cobra Berry on this Meloetta, so I can live any hit that he wants to go for. As long as it doesn't flinch me, we should be good, as I'm able to knock him out. And essentially, I'm now up 6-3, which is really nice, because I'm going to be able to get off another huge hit on the Vaporeon here before he knocks me out. And this is really good, because I still have Toxic on Rhydon. I've been able to pressure this Vaporeon, and Golbat doesn't really do anything in this match. Like if Golbat comes in, he can go for the defog, but I'm perfectly fine with that. So this will allow me to get a free switch into my Sceptile here, which he is then going to end up going for the Protect on my Giga Drain. I wanted to pull a double switch out here, but him going for the Protect, scouting out to see what I wanted to potentially do, was a good play on his part, and then expecting him to pull a switch into the Golbat, I bring in my Sock, and I'm going to go ahead and just go for the knockoff. This way I can make it a little bit easier for my team to pressure him and potentially knock it out with a Choice Banded Zen Headbutt or a Choice Scarf Hitmonlee's Stone Edge, or Earthquake or Rock Blast from my Rhydon. I do have HP Ice on the Sceptile. I think it's HP Ice, and then Garbodor doesn't really do anything to Golbat anyway, so it really wasn't that big of an issue, as he actually ends up going for the Super Fang, expecting me to switch into my Rhydon, as I'm going to double out here, not double out here, but switch into my Hitmonlee on the Defog, and then I'm just going to go straight for the Stone Edge because I don't have knockoff. Yeah, it was High Jump Kick, Rapid Spin, and Stone Edge, and then my fourth move was supposed to be knockoff, but I probably still would have Stone Edged anyways, honestly, because it still covered him switching out, and just I could get off chip damage on whatever came in. As this turn, I'm going to hard switch right into my Rhydon. I do have the Toxic on the set, so I will be able to Toxic this Rhydon, which is this Musharna, which is really good, but then I miss my Toxic as he goes for the Shattered Psyche, and I go down the Toxic. Now, that miss, I don't, like, part of me thinks it wasn't game-changing, part of me feels like it kind of was, because if you remember, the Vaporeon's at 40%. So he would have been able to knock me out here after I went for the Toxic, which means I would then be forced into either my Hitmonlee just to knock off spam, or I could have even potentially just gone for High Jump Kick. I could have also just brought in Sceptile to spam Giga Drain and pressure him and start racking up Toxic damage on the Musharna. And then if I was able to keep up offensive pressure against the Vaporeon, he wouldn't have been able to go for the Heal Bell potentially. But because I missed that Toxic, I just basically lose this game, honestly. Like, there's literally, like, if I had got a crit here, then I would have been able to make a comeback. I guess I also could have just spammed Giga Drain as well, but at this point, there's really nothing I can do. I just kind of throw the game at this point, because like, I just lose to Musharna. I don't have Toxic on anything else. Even if I was able to get up Toxic Spikes with the Garbodor, I don't have enough pressure to apply to the Golbat to be able to get up a layer of T-Spikes and then start wearing down the Musharna. So yeah, unfortunately got a little bit unlucky game one, but it's okay because we still have a chance to potentially win this battle. I don't even get a Toxic with the Gunk Shot. I think I ended up getting like 2 crits, I think, like back to back, but those crits didn't even matter. So let's move on to game number 2. Hopefully we have a little bit better luck in that matchup, as of course he brings the same team again, and part of me was expecting him to bring the same team. This is a team, again, got off Harris's Discord, and I actually did upload with this team before, but it is Specs Callwitzer, offensive Pixie Plate, Whimsicott, defensive Protect Steelix, which I really don't like Protect on Steelix. Golbat, just mixed defensive with Defog and Taunt. Scarf Delphox, which is actually kind of cool, and then Z-move Scrafty, which I don't like Scrafty in general, but looking at this matchup, Scrafty can definitely win this game if I'm able to get rid of the Sneasel, or if for some reason he allows me to get up to +2 speed, then Scrafty just basically wins. Also, being able to get rid of the Sneasel means I can trick off my Choice Scarf on Delphox to the Vaporeon, Clefairy, Steelix, or the Golbat as well. You can't trick off Z Crystal, so I can't trick it off to Musharna. So even then, I have to play a little bit weary with Trick. Also, Clawitzer really applies a lot of pressure to his team. Like if you look at it, he doesn't really have too much of a safe switch in. If this is Spadef, bulky Clefairy like the previous game, which should be, he shouldn't have changed up any sets. It can safely switch in, but with a little bit of chip damage, I could potentially 2 KO it on the switch in. So with that being said, let's get this started. So I'm going to be leading off with my Whimsicott, actually expecting him to lead off with the Vaporeon. And because I did lead off with Whimsicott, I didn't expect him to just directly stay in with the Vaporeon, which is why I ended up going straight for the U-turn. And I guess in hindsight, I could have just gone straight for the Giga Drain. Like there was really no drawback to me going for Giga Drain. Even if he brought in the Golbat, I could have then potentially U-turned, and I'm very positive he didn't have U-turn on his Golbat, so he wouldn't have been able to get switch initiative on me. So maybe me going straight for the U-turn was a little bit of a questionable play, but I am able to U-turn into my Clawitzer, and I am just going to be aggressive here, as thankfully he doesn't burn me, and I'm going to go straight for the Dark Pulse, which does a really good amount of damage to the Vaporeon. And I get a little lucky here as I get a flinch with my first Dark Pulse, which is really nice, as he goes for the Protect, probably expecting me to expect his switch into Clefairy and pull a double switch. But at this point, I just want to be aggressive against his Vaporeon, because weakening this and getting rid of this makes it to where my Delphox is a much bigger threat to his team as well. So I end up getting a little lucky again, and I get a crit on the Dark Pulse. That's just payback for me missing Toxic earlier, and I'm able to get rid of the Vaporeon, which is really great. As in comes the Sneasel. I did contemplate staying in here. My gut was telling me stay in, because even if I wouldn't have knocked out the Sneasel, still getting off like 30-ish%, I'm pretty sure it was like the minimum, I think, if I remember, depending on what his item was, then that still would have been good chip damage on the Sneasel. But now he pursues me and he puts me in range of where I only live one Stealth Rock switch in, so that could be a little bit bad. As I bring in my Scrafty here, I'm just gonna go straight for the knockoff. I literally lose nothing going for the knockoff. Even if I had gone for the Dragon Dance, I don't Oko Golbat with the Z Steel move. So just going for the knockoff is really good, because I'm able to get off the Eviolite on whatever comes in, or leftovers of whatever comes in, and just get off some chip damage on the incoming Musharna as well. So getting rid of the Eviolite on this Golbat is really good for the rest of my team to just pressure this Golbat in general. As I'm gonna go ahead, switch directly into my Steelix here. He does make a nice double switch into this Sneasel, and I guess this is where Protect does kind of come in handy, because I am able to scout out for what move he wants to go for. But I most likely still would have just stayed in here and gone for the Gyro Ball. If anything, if I had Roar or Toxic, that would have been a whole lot better, I think, to have on the Steelix. But it's fine, it's really not that big of an issue. As he turns out to go for the knockoff, at this point I'm very positive he's not going to stay in, because he's either going to expect me to switch out or just stay in and go for the Gyro Ball. So I do try to get out my Stealth Rocks here, which is really nice, because now I can start applying some offensive pressure. As I switch directly into my Clawitzer, predicting him to go for the rocks, I'm going to be able to Water Pulse the incoming Clefairy. And this is where, if I had been able to somehow get off a little bit of chip damage on Clefairy, I would have been able to knock him out. But I can, in theory, just safely spam Water Pulse here. Like, I have a 20% chance to get the Confusion, so that's going to be really good. I also can just start applying pressure to this Clefairy, and I believe this is the final turn I go for the Water Pulse, because this is honestly a losing battle at this point. I know I'm not going to get the Confusion, and I can at least Encore him into the Soft Bolt if it comes down to that. But I decide just to be aggressive here, and I go for the Giga Drain, expecting his switch into the Steelix. This way I can start chipping it down and making it a little bit easier for my team to deal with it, as I'm going to U-turn directly into my Steelix, because there's a good chance he's just going to go for the Heavy Slam. Him Heavy Slamming covers me staying in with Whimsicott and going into my Golbat. Also still knocks out Clawitzer, and I was very positive he wouldn't go for the Earthquake in front of a Whimsicott, because then I could Encore him into that. I guess Heavy Slam also covered me switching into Scrafty, and there's no way I'm going to switch into Delphox. Actually, maybe I could have switched into Delphox, now that I think about it. Possibly. Either way though, it's fine, because I will be able to easily live Earthquake. As you can see there, I can live 2 more thanks to lefties, and I will definitely be able to 2 KO him with my Earthquake at the amount of HP that he is at, unless that Earthquake was a really high damage roll, which I'm not really too sure, because I didn't run the calc at the moment. But I can just safely go for another Earthquake here. I literally lose nothing in doing so, as I will be able to catch the incoming Musharna. Depending on the moveset of this Musharna, this could still beat me in theory because he's got the Psychic or Shattered Psyche, obviously, because he has to have a Psychic stat move for Shattered Psyche. Then he's got the Moonlight, and we know he's got Calm Mind. So his last move is either going to be Signal Beam or Barrier is what I was thinking. If he's Barrier, then Scrafty literally just sets up in front of this thing's face, and I can eventually beat it 1v1. So I'm going to go ahead, switch on out here directly into my Whimsicott in hopes that I would be able to Encore him into the Moonlight or into the Calm Mind. And as I go for the Encore here, I did not know that Z moves apparently bypass Encore, because I thought that I was going to Encore him into Calm Mind, but then he just Shattered Psyches and annihilates me. So if I would have known that, I definitely would have gone straight for the Encore instead of going for the Moonblast there. But hey, I learned something new in this battle. So unfortunately, down goes my Whimsicott. This, however, does give me a free switch into my Scrafty to just freely go for my first Dragon Dance here. Unfortunately, even at +1, I don't outspeed the Sneasel, which is why I go straight for the knockoff here. In hindsight, should have risked going for the high jump kick here. If I had gone for the high jump kick, then he wouldn't have been able to weaken my Scrafty. Another play I also could have made was to go for a second Dragon Dance, but Roar is very common on Steelix, so that's why I didn't bother going for my second Dragon Dance here. And unfortunately, that Heavy Slam does too much damage to where I will be able to take another one. So in comes the Golbat. Thankfully, I did knock this thing off earlier, and I was able to get on my Stealth Rocks here because Corkscrew Crash will definitely be enough to knock this out at +2. I guess I could have maybe gone for regular Iron Tail, now that I think about it, but really if you look at his team, like, I don't need to save my Z move for anything else. So going for the Corkscrew Crash here basically ensured that I was able to get rid of this Golbat before he was able to knock me out. As in comes the Sneasel, he does just barely outspeed me, which really sucks, so I have to switch out here. I'm not sure if I would have been able to live a Choice Banded Icicle Crash, but either way, switching out there was by far my better play. I also couldn't have Dragon Danced in front of the Golbat, just because it was most likely going to go for the Brave Bird to knock me out or put me in range of where Ice Shard knocks me out. So this does give me a free switch into my Delphox. Oh, really wish I had gone for the trick here. Tricking here would have been a really good play, I think. The only downside to that would have been that he then outspeeds me with his Sneasel, but even then, that wouldn't have been entirely too bad. And Psyshock also could have been a decent play here, because it would have allowed me to get off some good damage on the Clefairy. As I switch into my Steelix here, I'm hoping that I can just beat him 1v1 with the Gyro Ball, but it looks like Gyro Ball is not doing nearly enough damage to where I will be able to beat him 1v1. So I switch directly here into my Golbat. I'm going to first go for the Brave Bird, so I can potentially catch him on a switch into his Sneasel if he thinks I have the taunt. Now I get a crit here. This crit doesn't matter, as you guys will see, but it does make him want to go for the Soft Bolt, which I'm pretty sure he would have gone for the Soft Bolt either way, possibly, but I am able to taunt him here, and then I'm going to pull a double switch, not a double switch here, sorry. I go for the Roost just to save my Golbat. I guess in hindsight I could have definitely gone for the Brave Bird, but I don't think I would have been able to knock out Sneasel on the switch in. Depending on how things went. Either way though, I am going to go ahead, switch here into my Steelix, which should be able to chew 2 hits depending on what he wants to go for. As he goes for the Icicle Crash, I do pull a double switch this turn into my Scrafty. Very positive that he would switch into Musharna, because at this point he can just win the battle with Sneasel. Like, Sneasel just comes in and in theory Revenge kills everything I have, but he doesn't know I'm Scarfed Delphox, but Scarfed Delphox doesn't do anything against Clefairy or the Musharna. I guess on the switch in, I am able to now 2-hit KO the Clefairy, which is really nice, but double switching here I really thought was the best play I could have made to give me a chance to still win this battle. So I'm gonna go first for the knockoff on the off chance that he wanted to try and hard switch into the Sneasel, expecting me to go for a Dragon Dance. As he goes for the Moonlight this turn, I'm gonna make a aggressive prediction here and go for the Dragon Dance, because I need to be at +2 speed in order to beat the Sneasel, to outspeed it essentially. So because he doesn't have the Signal Beam here, he's not gonna be able to knock me out. So I took a really risky turn here. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but basically what I'm trying to say is that if he didn't have Signal Beam, I got a second Dragon Dance and I just basically win the battle. Because at this point, as long as I don't miss the Iron Tail on the Clefairy, I should be good, as Iron Tail does a decent little bit of chip damage to the Musharna. I am going to be able to knock it out with the knockoff. In comes the Sneasel. I will be able to finish this off with the knockoff as well. Ice Shard does not knock me out unless he gets a crit. And then all I need to do is hit my Iron Tail on the Clefairy because it's out of range of where a knockoff will safely knock it out, and I really don't want to risk that. So thankfully we're able to win game 2, and now we're going to go on into game number 3, which thankfully it doesn't bring the stall team again, because this time I have a team that was made by Ace Trainer Nicholas, I think. I also don't like this team. I told myself I was going to make changes to this team and add like a ghost type if anything for sticky webs, but I never just got around to doing that. I also told myself I was going to put a Scarfer on this team because even though it is a webs team, Scarf still just really come in handy. And yeah, anyways, he's got a very scary team, just Aurora Veil in general. Funny enough, I'm not lying to you guys when I also say that I did expect him to bring Aurora Veil. Like, I told myself, whoever I face this round is going to bring Stall and Aurora Veil because those are two playstyles I don't typically play against and that I haven't played too many times in general. I have a general idea of how to play around them, but there are two playstyles that I've never really played against, so I could have definitely probably made my own team, honestly, if I really would have made the effort to find the time. But either way though, we have a good chance to potentially win this game, even with the Aurora Veil. If I'm able to get rid of the Sand Slash, I can hopefully get up my webs, and then things will be fine and dandy for us. So going into this game was very positive. He would lead off with the Aurorus, or he could predict me to lead off with Shuckle and maybe lead off with the Vivillon, which is why I actually ended up leading off with my Cryogono here, thinking that maybe he would lead off with the Vivillon, expecting me to lead off with my Shuckle, but he does just end up leading off with the safe Aurorus, which is perfectly fine by me. I should be able to live anything that this thing wants to go for, as I end up going for the knockoff on the off chance that he wanted to switch out. He's actually going to go for the Encore, maybe thinking that I would be hidden power fighting or fire, maybe? I'm not really too sure there, but I decided to switch out into my Shuckle here, which is going to allow me to get on my rocks as opposed to my webs. I guess in hindsight, I could have definitely gone for webs here instead of going for the stealth rocks. And, well, no, I feel like basically what I was thinking was if I get up webs, he's going to be more enticed to go directly for the rapid spin. So if I get up rocks, he's not going to feel as much of a need to want to rapid spin them away because webs hurt him more than rocks hurt him. At least that's what I was thinking at the time, which is why I did that. And then I go for the Encore thinking he would go for the rapid spin or maybe try to go for the Aurora Veil, and then that way I could take advantage of that. But he actually just ends up going for the Iron Head. As I Encore him into the Iron Head, I'm going to switch out here in hopes that maybe I can still try and get up webs later with Shuckle, or if anything I can save it for Death Fodder or Sleep Fodder potentially. As I'm able to bring in my Embor here, I'm just going to go for the superpower to annihilate whatever he switches in. There's no way he's going to bring in Vivillon. He has no reason to do that, as I'm able to knock him out, and in comes the Vivillon. I do expect him to want to go straight for the Sleep Powder. In hindsight, I could have probably thought out this turn a little bit more, because switching directly out is obvious because I am locked into superpower like 9 times out of 10. Embor is choiced, and there's no reason I should have stayed in to risk him going for the Hurricane in the first place. So I could have probably made an aggressive switch here directly into my Medicham, because I do have the Bullet Punch on this Medicham. Either way though, I will be able to save my Shuckle here for at least Sleep Fodder, which is going to be really nice. And now he can just freely start setting up, as I do make an aggressive switch here into my Medicham, as he probably thought I would stay in, which is why he ended up going for another +2 hit. This just guaranteed him outspeeding any potential Scarfer I had, as I'm able to knock him out with the Bullet Punch. In comes the Turtonator. Obviously I can't do anything to Turtonator, so I'm gonna have to switch out here into my Meloetta, as he does turn out to be Shell Smash, which thankfully is not the fastest Shell Smasher around. It's also not that strong. As you can see, I'm able to chew the hit, and my hardest hitting move I had was Psyshock, because this was a sub-calm mind Psyshock Focus Blast Meloetta. If I had the Hyper Voice, I think that would have done more damage, and I just come so close to knocking him out there with the Sucker Punch. I do put him in range though of where Bullet Punch will be able to finish him off, which is really nice. As down it goes, in comes the Drapion. At this point, I know the pursuit is coming. Like, there's literally no other play he needs to make here, because I shouldn't want to stay in with Medicham in the first place, so I do expect them to go for the pursuit, as I'm able to get off a good amount of damage. In comes the Sand Slash. I will be able to potentially knock this out, depending on if I was locked in or not, which, I mean, at this point he probably knows I'm choice banded, so there's no real reason for me to stay in here. And I can just sack off my Shuckle here to this Sand Slash so I can prevent him from spinning. This does allow me to now bring in my Rotom and go for the Volt Switch. And I don't know if going for Thunderbolt might have been a good play there. I don't know. No, I feel like Volt Switch was definitely my best play. Yeah, because I'm able to knock him out. As I bring in my Cryogonal, he can unfortunately just safely bring in Virizion here. And at this point, because I don't have a Scarfer on this team and I don't have Webs up, Virizion just outspeeds everything that I would want to bring in. So he's going to go for the close combat. Even at -2 Spadef, I will not be able to knock him out with the Leaf Storm here. Although he is in range of where Bullet Punch is gonna knock him out, so that's really good. So I can bring in my Medicham here, go for the Bullet Punch, and at this point it all comes down to whether or not a Bullet Punch will be strong enough to finish him off here, which unfortunately it is not. And I do just barely end up losing 1-0 there. Like I said, if I had maybe made the changes to this team like I had originally planned to, I could have probably won this. Either way though, I don't feel bad in losing 2-1. I still kind of feel like I could have maybe won game 1 if I had hit the Toxic, depending on how things went and how I played around the Vaporeon and if I was able to get up offensive pressure. But hey, hacks is part of the game, and I felt like the second game I could have obviously, I guess, quote-unquote prepped better, if you want to look at it like that. And I don't know if I really could have played this better. Maybe I could have made some plays a little bit better. But either way though, still had a blast. This was a nice experience to be able to do something Smogon tournament related. Definitely want to do these more often for future tournaments coming up. So yeah, let me know if you guys did enjoy this. Make sure to hammer that like button down below if you did. And yeah, good games to Dundies. I don't think he uploads. I think he just mainly just does showdown playing and stuff like that in Smogon tournaments and all that shenanigery. But yeah guys, again, hopefully you did enjoy, had a blast, and I'll see you all later or tomorrow depending on when this goes up. So yeah, later guys.
Cause my brain and heart are both tied in the knot, and this hinders me from crying a lot. This causing me to show no emotion, but when I said I cared, I wasn't joking. But I guess it's too late for me to become broken. For now, I'm living with no more pain, tears of hoping. I'm just coasting. Yeah, I said I'm coasting. No more pain, tears, and hoping. For real.